If your church's insurance renewal comes in higher every year, you're not alone. A lot of churches feel stuck. They know they need protection, but the premiums keep creeping up, and they're not sure what they can safely change without exposing themselves to risk. In this video, I'll show you how to lower your church's insurance costs without exposing yourself to unnecessary risk. The one adjustment that can have the biggest impact on your premium right away, and how to position your church so insurance companies actually compete to give you better pricing instead of just handing you a higher renewal. Imagine this. Your church gets its renewal back and the premium is up. Nothing major changed, no big claims, same building, same operations. So naturally, the first thought is, what can we cut? Maybe you lower limits, maybe you drop a coverage, maybe you just accept it and move on. But here's the problem. Most churches are trying to solve this the wrong way because lowering your insurance cost isn't about cutting protection, it's about changing how you structure your risk. So instead of cutting coverage, let's talk about the smarter way to reduce costs, starting with the one change that usually has the biggest impact. Most churches are insuring things they would never actually file a claim for. Think about it. If your church had a $3,000 or $4,000 issue, would you really call the insurance company? Probably not. You just handle it internally. But a lot of churches are still carrying $1,000 or $2,000 deductible. And here's what that tells the insurance company. You're responsible for all the small stuff. And when the insurance company expects to handle small, frequent claims, they price that into your premium every single year. Now here's the reality. About 70% of your church insurance cost is driven by property coverage. And most property claims are relatively small. Things like minor roof leaks, broken windows, small water damage, or vandalism. So when you carry a low deductible, you're essentially prepaying for those small losses through higher premiums. Instead, you want to shift that line. If you wouldn't file a $4,000 claim, why are you paying for a $2,000 deductible? A lot of churches can move to a $5,000 or even a $10,000 deductible and see a meaningful reduction in cost. And a simple way to make this work is to set aside a small internal reserve. Instead of paying extra premium every year, you keep that money and actually use it if something happens. That one change alone can have one of the biggest impacts on your total. Insurance companies treat you very differently when you bring them one policy versus your entire account. A lot of churches have their property insurance with one company, their auto with another, and their workers' comp somewhere else. And when you split things up like that, you lose leverage. Because from the insurance company perspective, it's a smaller relationship, less premium, less incentive to compete aggressively. But when you bundle your property, auto, and workers' comp together, a few things change. First, the insurance company can spread risk across multiple areas. Second, their administrative costs go down. And third, they're more invested in keeping your account long term. Because of that, many companies will offer multi-policy, and sometimes they'll even get aggressive on one line just to win the whole account. And this is especially true with companies that specialize in churches. They understand things like volunteer drivers, church vans, childcare staff, and ministry operation, so they can often price auto and workers' comp more effectively than general insurance companies. If your coverage is spread out, one of the simplest ways to reduce costs is to bring it together under the right carrier. Not all insurance companies look at churches the same way. Some companies have a church program. Others are deeply committed to the space. And that difference matters more than most people realize. Because churches are unique risks. You've got property exposure, events, rotation, volunteers, childcare. There's a lot going on under one roof. Companies that specialize in churches understand this. They've built their pricing and underwriting around it. So one of the easiest ways to improve both cost and protection is to make sure you're working with a company that truly understands churches. Make sure your safety features are credited. Some churches are already paying for things that should be lowering their insurance, but the insurance company doesn't even know about them. Think about alarm systems. If your building is connected to a central station that alerts the fire department or police, that reduces risk significantly. And many insurance companies will give discounts, sometimes 10 to 15% for those types of systems. But here's the catch. They can only give you credit if they know it exists. And you'd be surprised how often that information never makes it into the policy details. So you're paying for the alarm but not getting the benefit on your insurance. This is a simple fix. Make sure your broker has documented all of your protected fire alarms, burglar alarms, monitoring service, and confirm that those credits are being applied. Because if they're not, you're leaving savings on the table. A claim doesn't just affect your past, it shapes how insurance companies see your future. And this is where a lot of churches unintentionally hurt themselves. If you've had a claim in the last few years and you don't explain what you've done to fix it, the insurance company assumes nothing has changed. And if nothing has changed, they assume the same thing could happen again, which leads to higher premium. But if you take control of that story, everything shifts. Let's say you had a hail claim that damaged your roof. If you go back to the market and say, we had a claim, that's one story. But if you say, we had a claim, we upgraded to more resilient shingles, and we now have an annual inspection process in place, that's a completely different story. Now you're showing the insurance company that you're proactive, that you're managing your risk, and that makes you a better accountant. So if you've had a claim, don't just report it, explain what you've done to make sure it doesn't happen again. Now, sometimes the only thing that moves pricing is competition. You can implement all of these strategies, but if your current insurance company knows they're the only option on the table, there's only so much incentive for them to lower the price. Insurance companies respond when they know they have to compete. And the best way to create that competition is by working with a broker who can access multiple carriers and run a structured process. Because not all quoting processes are the same. If it's random or unstructured, you may not get meaningful options. But when it's done the right way, you can bring multiple strong offers to the table, and that's when pricing starts to move. So if you've tried everything and your renewal still isn't where you want it to be, it may be time to introduce real competition into the process. So if you want to take this a step further and actually see how your church's insurance should be structured from the ground up, what to buy, what to avoid, and how to make sure everything fits, we made a video for that. How to compare options confidently. If you click right here, I'll see you there. I'm Daryl Henry with Bitner Henry Insurance Group and American Church Group of North Carolina and Minnesota, and we serve those who serve others.